Hello, scholars. I'm Chauncey Joyce, and today I'm here with Kelly Noll. Kelly is a Valuation Services Director at GBQ Capital Advisors. Her nearly 2 decades of experience include hundreds of valuation engagements involving businesses, business interests, and intangible assets of privately held and publicly traded companies. Most of her work supports a sale or gift of equity interests. Prior to joining GBQ, Kelly was an assistant vice president at National City Bank, where she worked as a commercial lending officer and underwriter, specializing in cash flow and asset-based loans to national retailers. All right, Kelly, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay, super. So how would you describe your role to someone you just met at, say, like a cocktail party or a barbecue or something?
Yeah, I think the easiest way for me to describe it is I am the equivalent of a real estate appraiser, someone who would go out, look at market comps to tell you what your house is worth. I do that, but for businesses. I assess business worth using comps, not looking at houses like you would in a real estate appraisal, but I'm looking at, comps of similar businesses or companies to look for market price points, in addition to some other methods we have to value businesses.
Oh, neat. So what's so exciting and unique about business valuations to you?
My favorite thing is just getting to work with C-suite executives to learn about their businesses. Like I said, I've valued hundreds of businesses, maybe even thousands now, but lots of businesses, and we work in every industry. So there are a lot of just businesses I did not know existed and are multi-million dollar businesses for, serve some need that I didn't even know was there. And so it's just, I love learning about new businesses. I love discussing strategic plans with executives, like just, because obviously to value a businesses are based on future cash flow. So to assess future cash flow, we have to be talking about the future and their strategic plans and, just everything that they have going on. So I just love learning about businesses.
Yeah, I love that answer because sometimes we have some finance majors that think if they just know finance, they're gonna be good. But if you just know finance, how are you going to value a company like Disney that has so much more to it than just finance? So, Kelly, what challenges did you face when you were getting into your career?
I didn't have any major challenges, I would say. The only thing is that I didn't really know that certain careers existed. Like I did not know that valuation existed. Most of my friends, I went to Ohio University, most of my friends were going to investment banking. And that was kind of what in their heads and what I was kind of told, if you want, a legit career in finance, you need to go and do a few years in investment banking. And for me, that wasn't really something that excited me. That wasn't a career path I wanted, but I didn't know what else could be out there that was still maybe similar, but not investment banking. So that's one thing I do now at GBQ is I go out and I talk to college students and just try to get the word out that there is an exciting career in valuation where you still get that level of access to management that you do with, say investment banking. But, it's not necessarily investment banking. The career in valuation has been great. So I always suggest it to college students.
Yeah, I imagine the culture at GBQ is pretty nice too, right?
Yeah, we have a great group here where we work hard. We have very smart people. Almost everyone has their CFA charter or is working towards it. That's one of the reasons I've been here over 15 years, that I love that, just working with very, very smart people. I'm always learning something. And they work very hard. We have clients around the country, so people are traveling, but there is still it's not the, 80, 90-hour work week that,
Right.
maybe you're working on a deal that doesn't happen. I mean, it's a very, I don't know. I just found it to be a very good balance of high level, finance work, but also, still have a work-life balance.
Great. I think you mentioned this already, but what is your favorite part of your role?
Yeah, I think it's just that meeting, just learning about new businesses, getting access to management. That was one thing. I started out in commercial lending, and I learned, there were some great people on my team. I really learned a lot, especially how to on the credit side too, like how to analyze a company's credit worthiness, and also how to write for business, because I think there's definitely a writing. There's like a way you wrote in your English class, and then there's like the business writing, which is more like a 10K writing. How do you write concisely in a business sense? Um, uh, but so anyway, when I was in the credit side, I never got the conversations with the executive management. I was working more with the
Right.
controller that was just dealing with the bank relationship. And so I didn't get the full story because I didn't need to know the full story of the company. But I like now that I get to know, the whole story of what's going on, unlimited access to management for any questions I might have. So that's
That's
really fun
great.
for me.
That's very cool. All right.
Yeah.
Do you have a least favorite part of your role?
It really is a good job. The only thing I would say, and this is just where I am, because I have 5 children now. So I used to be when I started, I would raise my hand for all the exciting deal work that is kind of more the fast paced deals that move. I've had to step back and I can still do some exciting projects, but those projects that move more fast paced, they need you available more often. I haven't been able to kind of raise my hand for that. So that's maybe just something that for me personally is, maybe a less favorite thing I've had to step back from, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you do a lot of work still for OU. I mean, that's where we met, was the finance advisory board there at OU. So I'm sure you're still spending a lot of time getting out, helping students too.
Yeah. I'm actually going down there in a couple weeks, I think. So
All right,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, go Bobcats.
Yeah.
So do you recommend any professional designations? You mentioned there's a lot of CFA charter holders there. So
Absolutely. And we have, yeah, and I don't know if your students know our connection, but so we met back when you were at OU, and I remember it, and I don't know if you do this at UC, but at OU, you had a class where you helped students, pass their level 1 while they were in college. And you had one of our top analysts actually is, he passed his level 1 in college. We
yeah,
recruited him because it is
Drew. Yeah,
yeah, Drew.
yeah,
So there's a lot of, we highly recommend the CFA just because there's a lot of overlap in what we do, financial statement analysis, equity valuation. I mean, there's so many parts of the CFA that are applicable to what we do and also other finance careers. But to us, it's really the gold standard in the finance industry. And we love seeing that on a student's resume. If they have showed that in college, we know there's lots of other things they could be doing in college, in their spare time. But if you in your spare time are electing to take a level 1 prep class and then pass it, that says a lot. And it's not an easy test. I mean, I think the pass rate's still high 30s, 40%. So if you can
yeah,
show that you've passed that as a student, that just
yeah.
says a lot.
And you have another one of my students there that just
We
passed this
do.
morning. So pretty
Yeah.
proud of Joe. I gotta give him a call.
Yeah. Joe has been doing a great job. He was our intern, and then we offered him a job, following his internship after he did a great job, and then his past level 1. So he is off to a great start. He's doing really well.
Awesome. So Kelly, you have an extensive experience in valuation, hundreds, if not thousands of businesses you've analyzed. Is there any advice you'd give to my students that are eager to learn more about valuation?
Yeah, probably a couple things. Really pay attention in your class. I'm sure they're doing discounted cash flow analysis. When we interview students, I get a range of responses when we ask what they know about financial modeling, specifically discounted cash flow modeling. Some are, will say, I learned that a while ago. And then I have other students who can give a really solid answer of what a discounted cash flow is, discounting future cash flows at a rate of return commensurate with the risk of those cash flows, and perhaps walk me through some of the inputs to that. And so, with the latter response, that shows a lot. It shows you're paying attention. Maybe you did some extra work in that class, or maybe even at OU, they have a great group. It's a student equity management group where they manage a portion of the endowment fund. I think they're up to maybe 10 million now, but they are doing DCFs on their own to try and figure out the valuation of those companies they're analyzing. So we have students that can also show that experience, that like, not only did I do it in class, I've done it in my free time. So those students, they do really well in our interviews.
Yeah, they are really good. I'll give them that. They do very well in the research challenge, the global research challenge
Yes.
CFA does. But hey, I'm the mentor for that now at UC, so we're gonna get some Bearcats there.
I would love that, and we'll have to talk later about getting some of your students up for interviews here. We'd love to have. I mean, we have Joe S here, who actually we didn't recruit. He found us somehow. So we'd love to be more actively recruiting at OU.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've got some gems here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, So what are some common valuation pitfalls you see from new hires?
Just attention to detail in the modeling. I think some students think that like a DCF is like almost, like it's supposed to be almost like automated. Like you just like kind of input here, which in some, there is like certain places things go, but depending on the company's circumstances, it's different for every company. And so you can't just put in, maybe your assumption for, depreciation as a percentage of revenue. Like you can't, there's not necessarily a default, like use last year's. I mean, it's there's so many things that you need to really think about. And I think sometimes it's like, let me just use whatever we used last year in their valuation. And so just making sure you take time to really think through why you're putting an assumption in. And also the writing component. I think that's one thing. We actually sometimes have analysts do like submit a writing sample or do a writing exercise as part of their interview here. I think some people think valuation or finance is only numbers, but you have to, at least in my world, we have to present our valuation, but we also have to be able to explain it. And sometimes these reports are going to the IRS. So we need substantial documentation. I mean, our reports might be 100 pages, which isn't all, you're not typing all 100 pages. Some of that is, template or, just like writing about the method, which doesn't change, why we use this method. But it's still, you need to be able to know how to write. So I think like taking time to review what you write before you submit it is really helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Finance is not as formulaic as our classes may sometimes chalk it up to be. So actually, I'm a quant, and I actually love to do detail work. How do you know, though, when you've done enough analysis and it's time to move on to a decision, a go or no go, or to actually put a number on the page?
How do you know? I mean, just following the process of making sure you've thoroughly vetted all your assumptions. That's why the report actually helps. Some people might think, okay, I come up with my number and then I write the report. I prefer, and many of us prefer here to do it at the same time, because you're making sure your assumptions are all, you've vetted all your assumptions. If I'm trying to pick, let's say, net working capital as a percentage of revenue, is it going to be 5%? Is it going to be 10%? Did I just pick that number out of somewhere, or did I look at analysis of the comps? Did I look at the company's historical levels? Did I look at it on a quarterly basis to see if maybe year end's funny? Have I looked at, if it's seasonal? So having that analysis, so having your paragraph written for that, so that assumption is solid. Having for your revenue assumptions, have you cross-checked it with how they've done historically? Have you cross-checked it with the industry? Because that's another thing we look at. Just because management tells us they're going to grow at 10% a year, if they're in an industry that's growing at 1% a year, I mean, maybe they have some really good story, and that's when I would expect a significantly longer write-up to explain why they're going to grow at 10%. But every assumption we make, has to be thoroughly vetted. So once you get to the point where you've gotten all of your assumptions are supported, then we get to the point where now we're comfortable with going forward. And that's, I just mentioned the discounted cash flow model, but we're also looking at transactions. We need to make sure you've thoroughly looked at transactions. If you're in, let's say it's a machining company, have you scrubbed all the transactions to make sure we're looking at those that are most applicable to us, and we threw out the transactions that aren't good. Because that's, one of those things that we don't use a ton of AI in our industry. Like, we have, like, if you're pulling, if someone were to just find a way to have AI pull the transactions, maybe you could there's a way to automate that, but you still need someone to go in and scrub the transactions, because there's going to be some outliers that just, they get pulled because of that's how they're getting pulled, but you really need someone to go in there and make sure we're looking at good comps. Because just like a real estate appraisal, if you have, bad data coming in, bad transactions in there, it's going to skew your value.
Right. Yeah, that's great. All right, Kelly. So there's a huge focus right now for my students and more nationally on mental health. And it sounds like you're carrying a lot of responsibilities at work, at home. Is there anything you do that helps you prioritize your mental health?
For me, it's taking care of my physical health. What goes right into that mental health. I love to work out. I do running. I like to do half marathons, formerly marathons. Right now, it's more I have to settle on the on the half marathons, and I haven't done that in a couple years, but I still love to get out in the run, or I have actually a cousin in Cincinnati that we do the Peloton bike ride. We can do that in the morning. So I'm usually an early morning
Yeah.
exercise, or get it in. It's a great start to the day. If nothing else, you got, so you started your day with, checking one thing off the list and feeling good.
That's awesome. I've always wanted to do the flying pig, but
Yes, I
you
need
know,
to do that. My brother lives in
all right.
Cincinnati actually, and I keep meaning to sign up for that and go down there and do that. So that is on my list. I will do that someday.
All right, cool. Maybe I'll race you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be
All
great.
right. All right, Kelly, is there any other general advice you'd like to share with undergraduate students? They may not be finance majors.
Um, no, I think just work, work hard while you're there, to get involved. And I know UC has, various finance groups,
Yep,
or
we sure
things.
do.
So, get involved in things, network, because it not only will teach you, things about finance, but networking with peers.
Yeah.
That's what's been fun to see, because what we're just peers in college, now we're in a position where we can refer work to each other. So it's fun to be able to, those students that you worked with or partied with in college. Now we're on, we might be on the same deal team for something. And so it's a fun experience.
Yeah, we do have a good finance club here, but their
Yeah.
advisor's kind of a nerd.
I have a feeling who that might be. No.
Hey now. All right, Kelly, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you helping our students. I think this is a really good interview for them. And I love all the valuation tips and advice you gave us, especially regarding interviewing. So that's going to go a long ways.
Yeah, and feel free to send them, my email. I'd love to chat with them, and hope to make it down there too, to meet them. If they have, if there's a finance, that's one. I don't know if the finance group, do they have events that, they want recruiters to
Oh,
come
yeah.
talk to, or?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I would
Okay.
love to put you on that list. I can definitely put you on that list.